Lori G.
Bob Wilbar.
If everyone would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We have a few items on our agenda. Bob, you'll remain seated with us tonight because I think we have a couple of members that won't be joining us. We also have a couple of members that are unfortunately running a little bit late, so you may see a few folks join us as we move forward through the meeting. We have two upcoming meeting dates, one on April 7th and one on April 21st. And we have a few sets of minutes to approve. Pam, I'm going to go ahead and hold those over because we won't have a quorum to approve them right now. So the first item on our agenda is an extension of final approval for the Stone Ridge Commons amended subdivision.
When was the well field inspection?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Richard O'Rourke, attorney for the applicant. As you know, we have received all the final approvals, and it was only within the last 2 weeks or so that we finally got our health department approval, notwithstanding processing it. The weather has obviously caused havoc in terms of surveying, and so what we're here for this evening is merely an extension of the period of time in which to complete the subdivision requirements.
Okay. Your letter, I didn't notice in your letter that it had a specific time frame, but I know right now I think your site plan expires after a year, so it's good until August 2015.
That's
Are
correct.
you looking for a 6-month extension?
No, I'm looking for an extension on the subdivision approval.
Right, but to make it, for a 6-month extension on the subdivision approval, that will then be concurrent with the site plan approval.
That's fine. Make it concurrent. That's fine.
Okay. Any questions or comments from board members? Brendan, Michelle, Joe, anything you need to go over? Okay. Do I have a motion to extend the Stone Ridge Commons amended subdivision for 6 months?
So moved. Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion
Thank you very
carries.
much. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Likewise, thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is a peddler's permit renewal for In the Doghouse on Route 82.
Hello.
Hello. And Pam, I think, do we have everything we need for the permit extension? Okay. And we had originally wanted you to come back, I think, towards the end of the year, each year, so that we knew that you closed up for the year. You know you have to come back before you open for the next year. So anything that we need to go over in the, and I'm sorry, I'm looking for, do I have the package here for the permit? No. Bear with us for 1 second. Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Okay. All right, so we've got operating same location, same business.
Yep.
Okay, any changes from the last time?
No.
Okay.
Everything's safe.
All right. Any questions or comments from board? You're just doing food service?
Yep.
Okay.
Same as it's been for how many years?
6 and 8.
Okay. Right. So it looked like there was other things on your site, but you're only selling food?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any questions or comments from board members? Brendan, Michelle, Joe, Scott, any questions? Okay. And Pam, I think we were renewing, there was a specific date, right? Typically for the...
It was January, no, it was up until December 15th.
Yeah, we'll do
Up
the same.
until December 15th? Okay, so do we have a motion to extend the peddler's permit for In the Doghouse through December 15th, 2015?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay,
you're all
thanks.
set. Thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is a discussion for the Muse at Hopewell, 89 units on Route 376.
Good evening, Chairwoman G, members of the board. We're here tonight with my son and partner, Sean Carney, Jeff Cantamo, and Eric Schwabum from Insight Engineering, and we're here to continue the discussion on the conceptual site plan and access, and we've amended based on last month's meeting, Jeff has amended the site plan to create more green space in the middle, and I'll let him describe the other changes.
Okay, great.
Good evening, Jeff Cantelmo from Insight Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture. Eric Schlobaum, our project engineer, is also here this evening. We're back again. We took some additional comments from the board on the few alternatives that we had originally looked at. Just to give you all some background, this was the selected alternative of the three that we brought in last time, which shows a circular configuration with our parking and access way. We have the 4 clusters of 9 townhomes, total 36 townhomes, and then we have the 2 multi-family buildings opposed at the front of the site. Our recreational facilities are in the cleared area, which exists right over in here is where the play field is, and then our patio and other area is in this area. We've made what I'll consider to be several considerable improvements based on information and comment from this board, as well as the Dutchess County Department of Planning. The first comment, which came from both entities, was to see if we couldn't make this central green area a bit more uniform and usable. And we were able to do that by land banking parking. As you know, for the 89 units, we're required to have 2 spaces per unit. We believe our actual need is going to be below 1.5 units, spaces per unit. And what we've done is we've land banked 37 parking spaces in order to achieve the green space while not building parking that wouldn't get used, in our opinion. The second thing we did, again, at the recommendation of the Dutchess County Planning, was remove our driveway from the wastewater treatment plant driveway. They thought that didn't send the right message relative to the community, and that having its own entrance and identity would be advisable. And again, we took that under advisement. What we've done with the entrance is several things. First of all, we lined it up with the exit entrance into the south end of the town hall parking lot. We will be working with the town engineer and the town traffic consultant in terms of what's the best arrangement with that to make sure that it works properly. But what we've also done is we've worked the internal connection to work with the potential for a future loop that was originally contemplated in the front of the Cannon property. And that may play into some future other improvements along Route 376.
Is that intended then to be, the loop through the subdivision is intended to be one way? Is that?
The loop was actually part of a master plan concept that was developed by the town. That wasn't developed by us. And I don't believe that the idea of it was to be one way.
I'm sorry, your subdivision.
Oh, no, ours would not be.
It now looks like you have 2 entrances onto what will eventually likely be the loop road. So I'm just asking, is it a one-way
No.
circulation? Or
Ours is not one way.
so you're going to have 2 driveways very close to each other with 2-way.
Right, within what is it's very similar to a parking lot where you have entries every 60 feet. If in a 60-foot bay, it's only our traffic. This
It's
is
only your
not,
traffic now.
well, I think
In
it's,
and out of the complex, it's only his traffic. I think that's what he's referring to.
I know, but this is showing, this will eventually, I believe, is still intended to be, and Michelle, you'll correct me, or Brendan if I'm wrong, but this is eventually supposed to connect, and there would be other development potentially on the vacant land above it. So you're going to have 2 driveways onto what will eventually be a thoroughfare for much more traffic than just this development. That's why I'm asking. It's different than.
yeah,
This
and
is different
again,
than the last
we can talk more about that. We believe that categorizing that as a thoroughfare probably isn't quite right, but that internal local feeder would, I think, work fine with the arrangement we have, but we can work that, we can discuss that further with the traffic consultant. We don't see that.
At the point where the rest of that, I'll call it the loop for a moment, is built, do you anticipate then putting a cul-de-sac where you're building the current entrance, or do you anticipate leaving that?
Well, we would think that if we built that and we built it to the standard we're going to be required to, that it would have to serve some future function, whether that's full service, parcel service, one-way, right in, right out, or emergency access that's gated. It could be used for a number of potential benefits to the two properties, the two Cannon properties.
Okay.
The third issue that was brought up by the county was the extension of our sidewalk down to Route 376, and we've done that along the access road. And in concert with that, they've asked us to reach out to the county to see if the loop bus service could be extended in order to service Town Hall on the site. And the applicant is reaching out to the county to see if that accommodation can be addressed. So-
If I recall, the Dutchess County Planning had asked if you could put sidewalks so that the town would be reachable. I believe that was in their letter, or unless I'm mistaken.
My recollection is they asked us to extend the sidewalk to 376. I do have the letter if you'd like me to
Okay.
pull it out.
I just remember seeing that someplace.
That, I think, was feedback from the board, this
Okay.
board. Because we need, I mean.
I
we
know,
need to
I
get
remember reading it
pedestrians-
someplace about
Right, we need to get
access into
pedestrians up
town.
into the town center from this location.
Sorry, Jeff, just bad memory.
No problem. I wanted to-
What's that, the county road?
So are you stopping your sidewalk at 376 here? Is your intent that you'd have some sort of crosswalk across to the other side of 376? Or how would a pedestrian get from where your sidewalk is ending to their destination?
Well, we are proposing to end our sidewalk at the end of our entrance drive. We did speak to Brendan about the concept of approaching the DOT for a crosswalk. We're not sure if we will be successful in that. The DOT is not very easy to deal with when it comes to introducing crosswalks in non-signalized or non-controlled situations. So if we can get that, great. But the crosswalk would bring us across the town hall. The sidewalks are limited at town hall. But, right now, our proposal is to stop our sidewalks at 376 at our entrance drive and pursue a crosswalk if possible with the DOT.
Leaving it up to the town to get a sidewalk in.
Any other changes, Jeff, or?
We've done some stuff internally with the layout just to be able to address our stormwater needs,
Okay.
and we've done some additional study and planning relative to our water and sewer connections, but relative to the layout itself, we did open up this rare radius here. We are going to have to relocate a portion of the force main. We did point that out to the board. That was a byproduct of this alternative, and we're willing to undertake that, but those details will evolve when we get a little deeper with the town engineer.
Okay, you're comfortable they're achievable, though, so you're not making changes that you don't think could be built?
Right. Our connections and utilities, we feel very comfortable with how they're going to work at this point.
Okay. I see where the parking is land bank, so worst case scenario, if you felt you did need more parking, it's all going to be, is all of the land bank parking within that center green area, or do you have, I'm not seeing any others on the plan?
Yeah, my recollection is, yes, it's on the interior portion of, and we've talked internally in our office, just to let you know, there may be some better spots internally to land bank relative to the distribution of parking. We're looking at that right now.
But it fits. I mean, you could, if you
Clearly
needed
fits.
to meet the full parking,
Right.
it fits and it lays.
Fits no problem.
I think it's nice to have the additional greenery in the courtyard there. I think that's nice.
If I may, Jeff, did you mention the bus shelter that was in the county comment letter?
Yeah, what I mentioned was the county's request for us to talk to the Loop people about getting a bus stop and introducing a bus shelter, right? I think they're one and the same. If we get a bus stop, we do a bus shelter. If we don't get a bus stop,
But regardless, you're going to have school buses, so you probably need a bus shelter either way, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So that would be located out
presumably by 376, or?
Again, we'd have to plan it initially out at 376, because it's our understanding that the Wappinger Central School District will not commit to come into a private development until it's built, and at that point, they would make a decision. That was the feedback we got from them on a previous project. So we'd have to initially plan it out. If a different configuration maybe happened with the roadway, there might be an opportunity for a better spot for that, but initially, we would plan it out at 376, yes.
The curve at the end, if you were to get a school bus in there, I assume they would come in either way and swing around and have to swing. Do they have enough room?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And I apologize, I came in late, obviously. Any adjustment to the lot line?
No, we have not touched the lot line to the north.
Okay,
Is that this one?
right.
But you still have the proposed easement for the drainage.
Correct. There'll be several easements that would be associated with our work. One would be for the sewer, one would be for drainage, and one, I would assume, would be for future access at a minimum.
Right. Okay. And I think we were talking about this, the detention pond on the north side is going to be sized for larger development, but, okay. And that's
We
part
asked
of
them
the
to
easement.
demonstrate it could handle the phase 2 if a phase 2 comes.
And we did include that. We did submit a revised SWIP, and what we've done is our runoff reduction requirements are met with several infiltration practices that are spread out. I think there's 4 of them spread out through the community, and then the majority of our stormwater detention happens in the existing hole, which kind of just touches our northern property line here. And in the analysis that we sent in with our last submission, we included the development of the drainage area to the north that would come to that, develop to a similar level of imperviousness as this project. So we've run those numbers, and they're in that report.
Okay, great, thank you. Brandon, if we could, let's start with the roadway. And I know I missed the last meeting, but the last time I saw this, I thought we were proposing the driveway across from the firehouse. So this is slightly different layout. Have we looked at this layout? Is this new to us, or?
It's not new. I think it was actually proposed last time.
Okay.
I think the concerns that we have, or there's some operational and safety issues of the southern entrance into the town hall.
Right.
And I think we're going to continue to look at that and find a configuration. I think basically, the way what Jeff had indicated is, this is the preferred area that they want to connect into this development, and I do believe that we're going to find a solution there, to have an access with the bigger picture in mind, though, that we're going to look to make a connection further to the north, to the northern entrance into the town hall that would service this property and a development to the north.
Do you now envision connecting the entranceway that's going to the treatment plant with this as well, or are we not
No.
thinking that anymore?
Right. I mean, they've kind of taken that off the table. I mean, I think it's still there if, in fact, we can't find a reasonable solution in the vicinity where they're showing it. But that's what we're going to, that's at the point where we are looking at that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can you elaborate on that point about later development? I mean, where would it come in, and?
So it's a little bit off of this aerial, but the northern access, or the northern driveway.
Okay.
In between the town hall and the library. So it would come into that location.
Okay.
Yeah, Eric's bringing up our existing condition plan, which shows that.
As Jeff discussed, there was an original concept plan
Okay.
for the Cannon property, which included a roundabout at that location.
Okay.
So this is the full Cannon property that's up there now. This is the wastewater treatment plant right here, down in the southern corner. Our development area sits right in here. This is our north property line. This is the northern portion of what's developable on the Cannon property. And the entrance to the library comes in right here. And that's the firehouse right there, and that southerly entrance is, right in this vicinity here. So Brendan's talking about the library northern entrance to Town Hall complex right there.
So it's about where the old driveway used to be for the house.
I think it's a little north of that.
Yeah, the driveway to the house, you can see them actually on this existing condition plan. There were two driveways, apparently. This is the main driveway to the main house, this is a secondary driveway, and this is the entrance to the library and Town Hall.
Okay.
So the idea was to line up there and swing through the front and then swing back out, kind of like that.
Okay, thank you. Because as I recall, the original plan for this property was, that was going to be kind of like the common or...
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
So right now you're showing an extension of the drive, looks like it's a 12-foot wide gravel emergency access, and it looks like it's running to that,
Yeah, we
driveway.
basically, based on input from the board, we've shown two emergency access connections which would come back and meet the driveway, the old Cannon driveway that you saw going straight back
okay.
from that last picture. We're proposing to connect through here, which, that Cannon driveway actually sits right about at the top of the page, and then also bring one, because there was a concern about getting to the back if something happened, extending emergency access to that, which would be a gravel driveway. Again, with this redundancy of two-way access through here, we're not sure that this is really a necessity, but it's close enough that we're building our sewer line back there, and to make the connection to that passable driveway just seems like a smart investment.
Okay, and the condition of that drive now, is it in good condition? Does
Yeah,
it need to be improved?
they used it, I think, to drill their wells, and
I'm
the-
sorry?
the Cannon house driveway, that's a passable, I've driven on it.
It doesn't require a layer of gravel or anything like that?
Well, we'll have to take our maintenance guide for the lift station travels it with a four-wheel drive pickup
Okay.
truck. So
Yeah.
that's all I can speak to at this point.
So workable as an emergency access, so that's fine.
I mean, as far as taking a fire truck on it, that's another story, I think. So we'll take a look at it.
Okay. Brendan, how about, I know we were looking at, and now we've got a slightly different layout of the drive. Do we have the turning radii yet or anything like that? Are we still working on that for the
Yeah, I
traffic
have,
study?
Jeff in this submission, he did submit a truck turning diagrams. I haven't had a chance to review them yet, but
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, bear with me, I'm just making notes as we're talking. Anything else with the traffic or with the parking layout? It seems pretty straightforward, I'm not,
Did we
Anything
check
from your
the
perspective?
outriders on the ladder truck?
yeah, we haven't done that yet. I mean, we did get the plan just a couple of days ago. We just haven't had a
That's
chance
fine.
to review it. So
Okay.
we'll review it before we're back in front of the board.
okay.
I mean, I think you have shown all the anticipated truck vehicles. I mean, he's
discussed
demonstrated
the
that.
Including the new truck with the,
The fire truck.
The new
yeah.
fire truck?
I think a WB-40, and then,
Yeah, I remember Beacon in the name,
Yeah.
but it's a Beacon.
but we'll review that in detail and report back to the board.
okay. Michelle, how about updates on the EAF? I know we're still waiting, I think, on a couple of responses, or have we received anything in the last week or so?
Well, in today's packet, you see some of the responses from the involved agencies, and I don't think anyone's objected to us being lead agency at this point, and I believe the 30 days is up. I think it was up on the 12th, am I right about that?
Okay.
So we can declare lead agency this evening.
Okay.
And I have been in discussions with the school district. As everybody knows, there's just been a major redistricting, so I think that was sort of taking up their time for a while, and now they're focusing on this. And I actually spoke with the superintendent today, so hopefully we'll have some feedback on the student analysis that was done, which I prepared, and I used the same industry standards that the school district uses to generate their student numbers.
Okay.
I'm still, we've got all of the information I requested from Jeff has been provided, and I'm still waiting on some DEC letters, although the one
see there's a
that
comment
they
letter
gave
here.
us back for lead agency may cover everything that I need anyway, so.
The letter said that they need a 401 water certification. What is that?
It's, I think that's the federal, that's if it's if an Army Corps permit's needed, is that right?
Okay.
So, and I don't know if that is, did it say definitely needed, or we needed just to look into it? I think that's
So,
what it said.
Michelle, I don't know if you noticed, but this DEC letter also consents to the town board being lead agent, not the planning board. So I don't know if that means we need to go back to them, or what we need to do there.
Yeah, I haven't actually, I mean, I just glanced at it this evening, so I haven't really had a good chance to delve into this letter.
Okay.
I think, I'm not certain that an Army Corps permit is going to be necessary. I don't think on Jeff's piece of the property, an Army Corps permit is necessary, so we just have to close the loop on the rest of it for the water lines.
Okay, I just didn't even know it. I'd never heard it referred to as a 401.
Is there an issue with them specifically stating town board instead of planning board and writing their letter to?
One out of 5 of their notes is usually intermixed the boards, so their position is if the town's notified, that's just an inadvertent error on your part.
Okay.
It happens very frequently with the
Okay.
agency.
So there's no like letter back or anything that we need to do before we can declare?
No, because that's the person who will be getting it.
Okay. All right. Michelle, any?
It went out
Aside from the school district then, and whatever we're going to need for permitting, anything else that we're waiting on to complete the EAF?
Well, once the traffic,
Traffic study,
the traffic
okay.
stuff is resolved,
Right.
that will be incorporated as well. And then I think
Okay.
pretty much, well, I still need the rest of the site, threatened and endangered species site assessment on the remaining property. I have it on the 20 acres, 20 plus acres that are going to be developed for the Muse project, but for the remaining portion of the
Okay.
site, I might need a little bit of an assessment.
Okay. All right. Anything else that we need right now from your perspective? Before we would, I mean, we'll make the motion to declare lead agency, but anything that we need as far as?
No, I think the only other loop that we haven't closed is that we will need some sort of understanding of what the site will look like from the roadway, which will have to come, and I think Jeff was saying that he doesn't think we'll actually be able to see much of the buildings at all, so, but they just need to provide us with some sort of documentation of that, and that, I guess, we definitely need that for the public hearing.
And have you been to the ARB yet? Do you have your elevations into the ARB for the buildings?
We have not.
Okay. Because normally we would run the ARB public hearing at the same time we're running the planning board's public hearing, so.
Okay, we did discuss with the project architect the ability to get on the April meeting of the ARB, and that is our plan right now, so.
Oh, okay. Okay. We would normally have the elevations for the planning board meeting, so Pam, I'm sorry, what day is the April ARB meeting? Is it before or after? First
It's the
Thursday,
first
okay.
Thursday.
good. Okay. And then the visual renderings, you talked about giving us a couple from the view of 376. Now you've settled on a driveway location. We just need a feel for along 376, how visible is the project, what will...
Yeah, what we talked about at, I think it was 2 meetings ago, well, just to be clear, we did submit elevations with our previous submission, and I think again with this submission, but not to the ARB, which we will do.
Okay.
Relative to visual impact, what we had discussed, I think it was 2 meetings ago, was the substantial difference in existing vegetation we believe will buffer these buildings, and in lieu of some kind of computer simulation, we were proposing to maybe draw some cross-sections to show that that vegetation would in fact block what is the building structure at their scale and height. So,
Okay, and I think we originally were pretty confident in that because your driveway was going to come out south of the property, so now that's
Right.
not the case. So I just want to make sure you have a rendering that gives us a sense of what's it going to look like now that we're going to clear things to install that drive.
yeah, I actually think the old driveway, if we recall, came off of here and swung up and in.
Right.
And it's almost like if you were northbound and you could almost look up that driveway, whereas now, I think with it more perpendicular to 376, there's even a lesser impact, but we'll take that into consideration.
Realistically, you're not just going to clear the width of the road, you're going to have to clear a little bit more. So
Correct.
just give us a sense, or if there's replanting to be done, or whatever that is, we need to understand
Will
what that's
do.
going to look like.
Yep.
And are you planning on that? Because, I mean, that's pretty much just scrub growth. I mean, it's really not anything you would call the Great American Forest.
Yeah, it depends. If you're trying to protect bats, it's a great American forest. But if you're trying to screen a workforce housing project, it's not a great American forest.
Okay.
But there is some scrub along some of these areas. You can almost see from the photo, there are some substantial trees, I believe, in here.
Okay.
We'll take a closer look at those in the field to make sure that if we take them into account, that they are substantial.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm sorry, just bear with me, I'm taking notes as I go. All right. Larry, anything we need to go over for engineering?
Not really too much. I mean, Jeff, as you mentioned, has made a new submission. We've started going through that. What they have submitted is some additional stormwater design and some additional sewer information. I think basically the intention, I'll put words in Jeff's mouth, basically to further the confidence of their designs and try to tune in their site design a little bit.
Right.
And, you know, we've got some draft comments that we're working on, and I mean, everything seems to be proceeding in the same direction. So, in that regard, everything with regard to stormwater and sewer seems to be lining up as they had intended. One thing that was not submitted was any information on water. So we'll be awaiting some more information on water as far as fire flows and, you know, again, trying to further the confidence on those designs.
Okay. So Jeff, to that point with water, I know, and again, I realize, I apologize, I missed the last meeting, but 2 meetings ago, I think we had left off with potentially sprinklers in the 2 larger buildings, but you weren't necessarily doing that with the rest of the buildings, so you needed to meet fire flow capacity with your water supply. Has that changed? Are you planning to sprinkler all the buildings, or are we still talking about that?
We are still talking about it, and just to bring you up to date on the reason we didn't submit any updated discussion on waters, we were waiting for some more information relative to the town system, specifically their fire pumps and what's it comprised of. Our water connection continues to be through the central site, crossing 376 and tying into a water main which ends at a hydrant right behind the firehouse here. The issue we're having isn't with domestic flows or our ability to sprinkle and deliver water to our sprinkler systems within the 2 multifamily buildings and potentially into the townhouse buildings. The bigger issue is needed fire flow beyond that sprinklering demand and what kind of hydrant flow is necessary. It appears that the town system has a very strict limit to it as it's designed, and what we're looking at is what the needs of the balance of the, I think it's a service area, not a district, but the service area is compared to us and talking about potential options to address that. So the issue really isn't one of the sprinkling or the domestic, but that hydrant flow that we're trying to sort out. And it is still on the table with Ken's group, and we've talked to his architect and his mechanical engineer about the ability for us to provide some kind of sprinkling for the townhomes, and that is on the table. If that can provide some kind of benefit to the overall fire protection system, we're willing to entertain that, but we don't have an answer on that tonight.
Okay. I don't think that will have a big impact on the site plan regardless, but just so that we know that's still kind of being discussed. Anything else from an engineering standpoint?
I don't think at this point.
Okay. Scott, anything from your perspective?
No.
Tom? All right. Anything, I know we haven't motion for lead agency yet, but anything that stops us from setting this for public hearing to at least get some comments on the site plan layout? Sure. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Jeff, where the emergency access gate is on the road, is there going to be an easement to the property line to build out that road to the adjacent property, or?
Well, whatever, I think right before you came in, we talked about the potential for a few easements. You know, we're going to have a sewer connection out the back, which will require an easement. We're going to have some stormwater discharge into the low area here, which will require an easement. And at a minimum, an easement for this connection back through to the Cannon driveway or whatever future improvements are there. And then, if necessary, an easement through here.
Okay.
Other questions or comments from board members? Okay. Do I have a motion to declare the planning board lead agency?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, but it's a good point.
Okay, the motion carries. And then again, I guess, Brandon and Michelle, anything to stop us from bringing this into public hearing? Okay. All right. Jeff, we've got 25-day notice requirements. So it would be a little bit tight for the April 21st meeting, but you could make it if you could get the circulation out in the next week or so.
Yeah, we have no problem with just getting circulation out. We'd like to do it on April 21st.
Okay.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any other comments? Okay, so do I have a motion to set the public hearing, the initial public hearing for the Muse at Hopewell 89 units for April 21st?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I'm sorry, one more question, Michelle. Do we need to identify all the permits needed so we're advertising correctly? Are we comfortable we can do that at this point?
Yeah, they'll definitely need to identify all the wetland permits and any, I don't know if your excavation and fill amounts will require a special permit or not, but that should be on there as well, so we can discuss that.
Okay, I just want to make sure we get the whole list of them.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
See you next month.
Take care. Okay, the next item on our agenda is Hunter's Ridge on Devon, excuse me, Hunter's Ridge on Devon Farms Road. Hey, Brian?
I just want this one to go away. I want it to go away. Be gone forever.
Apparently, so do your neighbors.
Yeah. Well, you know, what are you gonna do? A couple more years, you know.
Just bear with us for a minute while we change over. We need to bring Joe back in the room. Michelle, can I trouble you to grab Joe? Okay, thank you. Just bear with us 1 second. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay. I know I've got at least one student here. Is there anyone else who's a student this evening? Okay. I'll call you up right after this one.
So tell him to hurry, okay?
Just tell them to say, approved. Granted.
What are you saying, Mike? These aren't the most entertaining things for
No,
youth to be watching. Come on.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
All right, so Hunter's Ridge, we have the planning board, I'm sure you have a copy, received a letter from a neighbor concerned with some of the drainage, et cetera. We have your request to construct the road before the map is signed, so let's just talk
Right.
to us about where you are right now, and let's go through what we might need to do.
As you know, this is a mom and pop applicant that owns the parcel. We've been before the board a number of times looking for limited ability to go in and clear the site and improve marketability for the subdivision. I believe this received final a couple years ago. It's been an application that's been ongoing since 2007. So in order to generate interest in the piece, we were granted limited ability to go in there, clear some trees. We established an escrow account for $10,000 for bonding for sediment and erosion control. We initially had some discussions with the board, actually with the town engineer, looking to have the ability to go in there and actually do the full infrastructure improvement. That's putting the road in, putting the drainage in, sediment traps, and putting the road into, let's say, binder course. The feedback was file the map first, and then you can proceed with doing the full build-out of the road. In order to file a map, you have to post a bond. The bond on the project is around $750,000. You can post a bond in the form of cash, a line of credit, a letter from the bank, and you can secure a bond. Well, as a regular mom and pop individual, the ability for him to secure a bond is zero. Banks or insurance companies will not issue that. We've explored that avenue. The next step is move on to a letter of credit, working with a bank. The property has to appraise in upwards of $2 million for the bank to issue a letter of credit. Well, in this market, that's not going to happen. We've already been down that road, and we've explored that avenue with them. Third is obviously posting cash. You don't have $700,000 to post in cash and construct the road at the same time after we file the map. So we're here tonight to have the ability to go ahead and install as much road infrastructure as we can up until binder, which will eliminate a lot of the bonding requirements. We go for a bond reduction, come before the board, we take a bond from $700,000 and now we're down to $150,000. Whereas we can now try to obtain a letter of credit. The ability for us to come in there with a letter of credit that's that much lower is a lot more palatable to a bank. So we're kind of caught in a rock and a hard place. The applicant would love to file the map, wash his hands of the project, and be gone. But we desperately want to move forward on this project, and it seems like if we have the ability to go ahead and actually put the road in, not only are we driving market interest, we've had a couple of people stop by and look at the property and actually want to buy something there instead of complain about it. So there is interest that has been generated by what's been done up there right now. We do understand that there are some concerns from downstream neighbors. I had a conversation with Joe Dennis regarding the downstream properties. And I just want to reiterate with the board, a full sediment and erosion control plan has been developed. New York State DEC has issued a construction activity permit, which is active.
Brian, when?
When what?
When were those done?
The NOI, I believe, was filed before the new regulations took into effect, so 2011. The DEC issued a construction activity permit.
So was that before or after the turtle?
So why are they contacting us now? What changed? Other than just the potential for development?
I'm not sure why they changed.
Probably because they see activity, and that's what's prompted them, it's my guess.
The other question, I mean, are they planning on piecemealing this, or eventually they're going to have to come up with the $750K, right?
If you put the road in, we can have Joe's office go out and look at the infrastructure that's put in, and we get a credit for that. We don't have to post a bond for the pipe. We don't have to post money for catch basins, grates, binder, foundation course. Those numbers now get reduced because they're actually installed.
Okay.
So now our bond goes from 750, now we're down to 200.
But I don't understand how you get around needing the 750 bond to start the road construction right now. That's what I'm not understanding.
I understand.
He only has to post the bond if he wants to file the map. So if he's allowed to perform some of the work, and then he wants to file the map, there'll be a review.
But I guess what I'm saying is, why would this board allow somebody to go in and start road construction unless we knew we had a bond that would assure the town that we'd be able to finish it?
He can't sell off any lots,
Doesn't matter.
regardless of what he does.
He walks away.
I don't, again, I guess I'm
What happens if he walks away? Then you're going to have a half-built road and
With no
no
filed
money to
map.
cover reclaiming it or finishing it.
It's been done before within the town.
And people have walked away from roads.
I mean,
well, it's been done before. Where has it been? Just
Jackson Corners.
Say it again.
Jackson Corners.
Without a bond?
Jackson Corners had a mining reclamation permit from New York State DEC. As the board cooperated with the applicant and allowed a phase of the subdivision, as they have done here, which allowed one lot to be cut off on
Right.
Jackson Corners. they took a different bonding setup because you had the mining reclamation permit from DC in effect at the time of the activity. I think it's
But
a
that had required
substantially different
stabilization built
set
into
of
that.
facts than this.
Right. And the health department wouldn't sign off until that first phase was done.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, we're willing to post a bond for reclamation. We've already posted $10,000 just to clear trees. The applicant is willing to post that, a small bond with the town to cover sediment erosion control and to go into the site, have the ability for someone to go into the site and stabilize the site. We do offer that, and I believe we said that in our letter. It's just the ability to go in there and actually do the road infrastructure just to reduce that bond amount.
Is it reduce the bond amount or also reduce the time too?
Right now, it's bond amount.
Okay.
So if it's a reclamation bond, then it's not going to need to actually finish the road. It would be tearing out what's there and restabilizing it.
How do you feel about it?
Well, I have a lot of concerns, in no particular order. You know, to build the infrastructure that's required takes a certain amount of wherewithal financially and experience-wise. So, you know, right off the bat, if we can't get a bond in place to perform that work, I would have concerns that the work is done properly, you know, the way it really needs to be done. Secondly, if we do entertain something of this nature, I think rather than jumping into the road, we should take care of the stormwater ponds and all of that infrastructure first to make sure that's completed before we get into future disturbance of the road bed. So there's a couple things there.
If you can't get money for a bond, how would you get the money to build a road?
Is there another way for you to provide adequate access into the property without actually going to the point of building a road to the binder course?
I don't know how we get away from the bond amount.
Well, we have in the past, I think, Arthur'sburg, we phased the bond, you know, so let's just, I don't know what a comfortable number is. Let's say the number is 200 or 250, okay? We identify a certain amount of work that falls within that, the pond and swales and the stone and all that. And once he completes that piece and we sign off on it, then that 250 could roll over to the next phase. So maybe they could explore trying to split the project into 3 phases, hypothetically, just to see if they can lower the bond amount.
That's fine with us. We're just looking for options to move forward.
Okay.
So if we have to break it up and piecemeal it that way, the applicant would be happy with
I
that.
think, you know, especially based on what we know is the DEC project that's downstream from you, or downhill from you, we need to make sure that whatever is happening is going to be stabilized. If there's swales to be built, if there's drainage to be built, I think that all needs to happen.
Right.
So that would need to be in the first phase, like Scott's saying.
Understood.
And Scott, if I'm not saying the right things, if there's other things I'm not
Well,
saying.
I mean, can you,
Can I ask a
maybe
question?
can you tell us the phases that you want to see first?
Well, I
and
would
then
have
second
them
and
make a
third?
proposal,
Or-
what
yeah, work
they
something
think,
out.
you know, as the builder makes sense, and then we would review that.
And that makes sense to you?
We would review it.
Yeah.
But I know in other cases, we have allowed it to be phased.
Right.
I mean,
I mean, you look at Hopewell Glen is phased. I mean, there's an example right there.
However,
Right,
there's
no, I'm-
no, you can't sell off any lots without the map being filed.
Oh,
So
correct.
Even if you get a buyer for a lot, you can't come back and say, well, can we have the lot? It's, you know, then at
Why
that
not?
juncture, it's all or nothing.
No, we understand that, and the applicant understands that. And obviously, from a phasing standpoint, you start from the bottom and you work your way up. So like Scott said, you start with your sediment traps first, and you work your way up to your swales, and then you work your way up to the road. So you start from the bottom up. So you just don't dive into putting the road in.
You did limited tree clearing. Is it stabilized now?
The ground wasn't disturbed. It was just cutting of trees. No roots were pulled. No stump grinding happened. So it was just go in, shearing the bottoms of the trees, and clearing brush.
But on a steep hill, you know, if you take down the trees, I don't know how steep the locations where you took down the trees are. If you take down a tree on a steep slope, it then starts washing.
No, the stump and the roots are left in place. You just cut the
But they're
trunk.
not absorbing anymore. They're not doing anything. They're just sitting there dying. Makes a big difference. I've seen it on hills.
I know. It's right across from my front yard. I see it every day.
I'm sorry, I just, you know, that happens. So the answer is, you took down the trees and no, it's not stable.
No, but I think in the short term, the roots would stabilize it. Long term, I think your concern is valid, but short term, I think it's okay.
But I think if we're talking about the first phase is to put in the proper drainage with the swales and things like that, we can, whatever additional runoff is happening right now, you need to trap it, you need to keep it on site and do that.
Right, and I just
first.
so the board knows, we did provide a set and erosion control plan. That does detail all this. We'll just pull it out and make sure it's very clear. You know, we had to provide that in order to get our DEC permit for construction activity.
Yeah,
I'll just make sure
Brian's
it's very
correct. I
detailed.
mean, they have done those plans, but then with the rework of clearing and the road aspect, he's had a couple of different variations to the plan. So now that he's going back to building it out in phases, he should just relook at those steps and make sure they're in the correct order, so we can review.
With a focus on making sure we're catching that drainage first.
We're all held
Keeping it on
liable out
site
there, so.
As intended.
I live up there, so obviously that is a important part that we will
Okay.
look at.
Not to turn this into a public hearing, but are the Cothers here?
It's not a public hearing, no.
Okay, because I had a number of questions about the letter, but, okay.
Well, I mean,
If you want to ask questions
You can
about
ask
the
about the
letter
letter.
with Brian, that's fine. Or if we need to go through it and have our professionals kind of address things, that's fine.
Okay, Brian, have you talked to the Cothers since?
We haven't received the letter, so
You don't have a copy of the letter?
we were never provided a copy of the letter, or
Okay.
the applicant.
Can we, Pam, can we provide a copy of the letter? We'll make sure you get a copy of it. It's important because there's
Yeah.
specific things that you might want to tweak about your phasing to help address the
Right.
concerns.
And Joe gave me the heads up on it, and obviously we want to protect the downstream properties.
Right.
Set and erosion control was developed, a DEC permit was issued on the project. There's also, when this kind of activity starts, just like with other projects in town, not only is there somebody from our office looking at it, there's a stormwater management officer from the town that's looking at this. This project also has an environmental monitor associated with it. So you have 3 different entities looking at this construction as it goes on. And I just want the board to know that we will be following the steps, just like every other application in town, to make sure that downstream properties are
Right,
protected.
so when you do your phasing, just remember the bonding, not bonding, I'm sorry, the escrow for monitoring is going to need to be in place as well.
That's great.
The questions I had, and maybe you could help me next time you're here, is the nature of the bog turtle restoration project, and also the mentions of the livestock that are part of the restoration project. I'm not sure what's...
Michelle, is that something, because I think you're
I
familiar
think I can
with
address this. I hope I'm saying this correctly, but bog turtles, essentially the habitat for bog turtles was created by the use of, basically of cows grazing. When they step into the soil, they create pockets that allow the bog turtles to live. So I guess that my understanding is that the idea was a restoration project to bring back bog turtles would involve bringing back the original animals that created the habitat to begin with. And also my understanding is that the wetland that is down there also was overtaken or had a bunch of Phragmites, which is an invasive species in it, and the cows, I think they eat the Phragmites? So they actually eat the Phragmites, but also I think when they stamp on it, they ruin the roots of the Phragmites. So and it's very, very difficult. Phragmites are very, very difficult to get rid of. And so, in fact, most restoration projects, a lot of them fail because they can't get rid of the Phragmites, but apparently the cows can get rid of the Phragmites. So one of the reasons you have bog turtle habitat here in East Fishkill is because of your extensive farming history, and it created this perfect habitat for these turtles to exist. And as the farms have gone away and the sites have been developed, the bog turtles are more and more threatened. So that's the DEC has created this project. It's a research project to see if they can bring back some of the bog turtles.
And Michelle, do you recall when it started? Because I know we circulated to DEC when this project first.
Well, I know that this was an issue, this came up during the Feehan project, so it's been around at least since then. I don't know what year exactly it started, but I know that we saw it, the reason we saw it before was because of the reason you were remembering this project was because it was discussed during the Feehan subdivision.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions, Mike?
No, that was it.
Okay. So we'll get you the copy of the letter, put together the phasing plan, and we'll bring you back in for discussion.
Sounds good. That's all I can ask for. And the applicant's happy with you working with him.
All right.
And he can get off my back.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. All right, before we go on to our next item, if there's any students in the audience who need something signed, come on up, we'll sign that for you and let you go on with your St. Patrick's Day festivities. Or not, up to you. Come on, no, sorry.
She meant the festivities.
I meant the festivities, not the sign up.
Sorry.
No problem. Where am I signing? Right up here?
Signature of what you send, just and I can write my own name.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Enjoy. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Chase Bank amended site plan on Route 82.
Good evening, John Modendorf, Hudson Land Design, here with Richard Schweitzer, who represents the applicant for the project. Since we were here last in the fall, we made some improvements to the plan. I believe your consultants are happier with the layout.
Okay.
We also put together a landscaping plan, which was essentially done by Michelle's office. And since the time we submitted, we've had some discussions with your consultants, and I do believe some of that landscaping is going to change. I'll let them comment on that further, but we're interested.
Do we have a plan to put up on the...
Oh, is the disc here?
Yeah, it was there.
Thank you, Michelle. Continue while Michelle's pulling that up for us. I just want to make sure we get it up on the board.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. I forgot about the procedure.
No, that's
here.
fine. That's fine.
So I don't really have too much more to say about the plan at this point. We're just interested in continuing the process and hopefully getting to the public hearing process at some point so that we can solicit input from the neighbors.
Okay. So Brendan, let's start with your information. I think you had some suggestions on the right-of-way and the work in the DOT as well as the rear access. Want to just run us through the comments?
Right. I think a couple of things. One thing we did talk to John about was the potential of, there's sidewalk along the frontage of the property, but connecting that sidewalk. There is sidewalk along the frontage of the property, but connecting that sidewalk infrastructure into the front of the building, there is a walk-up ATM part of the bank, so that would make some sense. We asked him to look at that. There is currently...
Would that go through the landscaping area, or would you want the sidewalk next to the driveway?
I think potentially it would probably go through that island area. So
Okay. Is that something that we've talked to you about, or are you...
When we talked the other day, that was the first I had heard of the idea, and not being from the area, I don't know how much foot traffic there really is along that section of 82. So I don't have a sense for if it's a good idea or not.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, the concept of it is, there are, there are some longer range plans to make improvements within the hamlet. And, part of that is actually making a more walkable community. And it's great to have the sidewalk along the street, but it's also nice to have that sidewalk infrastructure connect into the actual developments where people would be walking to. So
There's already a sidewalk there.
there's a sidewalk on the frontage, correct,
It's just not, you just don't have the T that goes into the site,
into the site.
You have to walk in the driveway or, yeah.
which we, right.
There was also an issue about Americans with Disabilities Act. Is
I
that,
know-
is that the
yeah.
existing sidewalk or the one you're proposing?
That's the existing sidewalk, just,
Is not ADA
well,
compliant?
taking a quick look at it, it looked like there might have been a couple of deficiencies with that.
Okay.
So, that was sidewalk that was installed probably by the DOT a number of years ago, so.
Okay.
There is, just talking about the 82 frontage, there is an existing sign for the bank that's located within the right-of-way boundary of Route 82. So, in general, those signs would have to have a use and occupancy permit from the DOT. We just asked to see if there is one, and if there isn't one, one needs to be obtained for that. And then also, they are proposing to put in one-way signs on both of the driveways.
On
And-
82,
Yeah, along 82.
but two-way in the back, right?
Two-way in the back. So those one-way signs would more than likely end up being within the right-of-way, and then I know they're going to edit or modify the landscaping plan, but even that landscaping would end up being in the highway boundary. So the project, in all likelihood, is going to need a highway work permit to do the work in the highway boundary, and then potentially a use and occupancy permit for the sign if they don't already have one. I don't know if you...
I don't know if we found it, yeah. So we're going to have to follow up with DOT
Okay,
on
that's
that.
fine.
And the landscaping...
Those aren't things that would stop a public hearing. We would just need to make sure we get the
Yeah.
answers before we
Right.
close the public hearing.
And the landscaping, I'm not 100% sure whether that can be done under a highway work permit or it requires a use and occupancy permit. That we'd have to find out from the DOT also.
Okay.
The modified plan, it did integrate the proposed parking with the existing parking. I think the layout is far superior than the first one. They are also proposing to eliminate the first parking space on the east driveway. You don't have a pointer, do you?
I don't, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's correct. The first parallel.
The first one that's parallel
Yes.
to the drive.
Parallel to the
Yeah.
drive, which could be a potential
That's
conflict.
probably good.
Potential conflict point. They're proposing to eliminate that. I think another minor comment we had was to put a stop sign or a stop control at the back proposed driveway, which they did. They also added a note to indicate that they're going to clear any vegetation that would interfere with the site distance to the right. On our last comment letter, we commented on the fact that at some point in time, that Unity Plaza Road is probably going to get dedicated to the town.
Okay.
There is currently a sewer easement, and this might be a question for you, Tom. There's a sewer easement, and I'm wondering if instead of creating a new easement for roadway maintenance and/or improvements, whether that sewer easement could be modified in such a way to include roadway maintenance and improvements. Okay.
Is the land concurrent, or would the land needed for the easement need to be expanded?
No, I think we would go with the same limits of the.
That it already exists for the sewer?
That already exists for the
So you're
sewer.
not asking for additional
Right.
land space for the easement?
Sewer easement is pretty wide.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's shown on the plan. Again, it's hard to see in the landscape plan, but.
I think it's a 30-foot sanitary sewer easement.
Right, so-
It's along the back.
So it's a 30-foot easement along the back of the property.
Okay.
So instead of creating a new easement, just utilize that easement, but have that easement.
Okay.
You can see the dotted lines. Yeah.
But, this is actually a big improvement to that site.
It's huge.
Well, yeah, I think that having that connection in the back benefits everyone.
Yeah.
I know the applicant is concerned about the number of additional improvements that are being asked of them. I don't know, we haven't gotten any cost estimates yet because we wanted to make sure the plan was going to be acceptable to the town. But I guess,
I
those are
guess
the things
I
we-
have a couple of maybe questions or
Let me, the last thing I want to note is that
sorry,
they did
Brandon.
modify the proposed location of the handicap parking to be up adjacent to the building. And taking a look out there, the front sidewalk along the building is at grade with the parking lot. So there is, immediate handicap access right there where they're
Okay.
proposing it.
So I guess one of my first questions is, and I think the layout is certainly going to, hopefully help ease the traffic flow within the site, and the additional parking is probably, will likely be used. But I guess it looked like you had a fairly wide grassy area, or I should say landscape area, that right now you're covering with trees or bushes or various plantings. Did you consider doing anything that would be more of like a grassy area where you might be able to put a picnic table or something for employees or something like that, as opposed to having all of it be like truly landscaped?
I think that we would actually be in favor of doing something like that.
Okay.
We can certainly talk to Michelle's office and try to work that in.
Okay, because I just think to have an area where, employees could be if they're on break or something like that, I'm assuming that they have that, so.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that.
And just, when I talked to John with Brendan, we discussed scaling back. Particularly, it makes no sense whatsoever to put any landscaping in and around the easement if they're going to need to connect to that easement. So obviously,
Right.
but also, choosing the locations where the planning board would really like to see landscaping, and then cutting back the areas where it may not be as necessary. And I think, up front it's important, but of course, some of the landscaping may come out if a sidewalk goes in to connect there. So really, the landscaping plan is sort of in flux until we know
Okay.
what other improvements, and then I'm happy to work with John's office and making it work for them as well.
And just, it looks like there's a very narrow strip of landscaping on the, is it the north side? I don't have a good sense of direction. I think it's the north side. Are those just bushes, or, are they going to encroach on where you have some of the parallel parking spots? I wasn't sure about what you were planting along there. Some of them look like they were very large.
No, it's just the way it is. I think the larger ones are actually small trees.
Okay.
And then the other things are shrubs and just herbaceous flowers and things like that.
Okay. I guess I'd probably rather see it concentrated more up towards the front. I'm fine with grassy areas and narrow stuff like that. Unless it's easier to maintain and you prefer to plant it like that, but I'm not sure you get a lot of value out of doing something narrow like that. I really like what you're proposing in the front and at the rear entrances. I think that would look very nice, but it'd be nice to see more grass, I think, especially in an area where you have
it's
more
almost
space.
it's like a open, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's open lawn. And then I think she was just showing landscaping along the edge of that open lawn, right? That's not-
Yeah, I mean,
it's like lawn area, and then I think she was just doing along the edge.
Okay.
Lawn area.
Okay.
But that's no.
If that's the right thing, that's fine. For me, I think there's value in having it towards the entrances. I'd love to see the area where you might have an employee spot or a picnic table or something like that. Other than that, I think the circulation, it looks like it works and would be much improved, and I think your additional parking is probably warranted. Do we have all the right, I know it looks like there's still some striping for a handicap spot that's across from up against 82, is that right, or am I seeing?
That's showing where it's moved from. It's lighter on the plan.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
just-
all right, so that's going to be just regular parking, and you have the handicap up against the building.
Right, that just carried over from the
Okay.
plan. The notes aren't on there to be removed.
Okay.
Getting back to the comment about the sidewalk that's already there along 82, and it might not be completely ADA compliant. Are you suggesting that the applicant is going to be required to correct that as part of this, or? I didn't see that as an
I was just
actual
asking the
comment.
question.
Well, it's in the right of way. I think that the T to get into your site, I'd want to make sure was ADA compliant. I'm not sure if we need to improve the existing sidewalk. There'll probably at some point be some sort of larger project for that,
Yeah,
right?
I think part of the
in right way.
basis for my comments, some of my initial comments regarded, a potential reconfiguration of the access to the front or even connecting to the adjacent lot, the post office lot. So, if there was going to be more work done there, then, and that sidewalk was going to be impacted by changing an access drive, then, it should certainly be ADA compliant. If that's not going to get touched, I think it's okay.
As long as we're talking about improving the whole area, our friends at the post office they don't allow people to go in the back, right? So they get that whole crazy traffic scene that goes on in front of the post office. And when most people would want to leave via the back, and yet they have a do not enter sign.
We're working on that through other means.
Okay, thank you. I never saw your lips move.
I channeled
Brendan, anything else?
No, I think that's it for mine.
Michelle, anything else for you? I'm assuming because we have a DOT permit potentially for the landscaping work, we need to circulate? Okay. Joe, anything from your end? I know we talked a little bit about the sewer line.
Yeah, they should provide more information on the sewer connection as well as the abandonment of what's there now, but that's normally more of a health department item as far as the abandonment goes, but the details on connection, the town would be interested in looking at that, to say the least.
Yeah. With the additional pavement, anything with drainage we need to talk about, or?
Yeah, they are increasing their impervious by some amount, and that area has shown to be prone to poor drainage at the rear, so we were asking that they take a look at maybe doing something, checking the soils in that area. Maybe they can get some infiltration, kind of some type of infiltration practice in the back there. But they are doing more planting, and that should help offset some of the new pavement.
Okay. Do we have everything we need for that, or are you still waiting on?
No, I think
numbers?
we would need probably to have John look at some of the numbers and see what he thinks as far as the runoff. Look at some volumes of runoff that might be generated, or it is a small site, so I don't know if you'd really do a pre versus post so much, but just look at.
Yeah, we can do some quick and dirty calcs on what that additional pavement is going to add, and I believe half the building through a downspout drains to existing planting beds on the east side of the building, so we'll...
Yeah, because on that note, we have a little flooding to the west of here.
Towards the post office or further west?
Yeah, and behind the front post and such. So we'd want to make sure that we're not getting any additional runoff to exacerbate that existing problem. So.
Okay.
So do I have a motion to circulate for lead agency?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So with that said, any other comments or questions by board members?
No, I think it's a great proposal.
Professionals, we're okay to schedule as long as we go out past the 30-day circulate. Do you know how long it'll take to get together the circulation materials?
I can help you with that.
Yeah, I can talk to, work with Michelle, but we should be able to get those together pretty quickly.
Okay. So our next meeting dates are, let's see if we need, we're going to have 30 days for this, after the circulation to come back before we can open, so do you think May 5th is too tight?
I think it's a very small circulation, so as long as you can get the documents done, we can get it out.
Yeah.
It's not very many.
So you have to do both the circulation for lead agency within 30 days before the public hearing, and then you have to make sure you do all your advertisements within 25 days before.
Yeah, we can get the materials out this week without a problem, so.
Okay.
We're at the.
So we have May 5th or May 19th?
I would prefer May 5th.
I know we have Stewart's on that night. Were we anticipating, Pam, sorry, were we anticipating needing to move that meeting to a different location, or was that, do we need to? Okay.
No, I'm sorry, that would just be to declare yourselves lead agency and then set the public hearing?
No, we would actually, we're talking about potentially setting the public hearing right now, so you'd have to complete your circulation, and before we'd open the public hearing, we'd declare lead agency, and then we'd be able to open the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
So actually, maybe, Michelle, to that point, we would declare lead agency on the 5th, and then move the public hearing to the 19th. That way, we've separated it a little bit. Are you concerned?
No, what other things?
Stewart's.
I'm sorry?
Stewart's.
It's a public hearing for Stewart.
It's a public hearing. It's gonna be a large public hearing, so.
So there's possibility we may not even get heard, is that what I'm hearing?
No.
I'm going to strongly recommend that we would put you on to declare lead agency on May 5th, but then we'd have your public hearing on May 19th. Sure.
Well,
Yeah, why don't we do both on the 19th? We're gonna-
Sure, both on the 19th, that's fine too.
you sure? I mean, I think if they were scheduled first,
Stewart's is scheduled first.
oh, so you'd have to sit through.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's,
just to be here for lead
Can we move that?
agency,
I mean-
I'd rather just do it all at once.
You don't even need to be here for a lead agency.
yeah,
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's an option too.
We can either do both of them on the 19th or just schedule you, if you're comfortable going to the 19th. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
You can declare lead agency the same night as long as the 30 days is elapsed.
Okay.
So it's happened twice.
Can I just ask?
The meeting on the 5th is going to be a long meeting, and you would be the second item heard, but the first item is going to be likely a long
Well,
item, so.
if I'm hearing we don't have to be here, then it probably doesn't make any difference whether they're split, but if it makes it easier to just have them on the same night, then
May 19th?
May 19th sounds like it's
It also gives you a little
better.
bit more time with the circulation if you
Right.
need it. Okay. I'm sorry, Mike, you had.
No, go ahead. I'll ask later. Thank you. I was going to ask about the setting of the schedule, but
We normally, as we act, we keep that order as much as possible based on the type of item.
that's not open to review. If we know there's one that's going to be highly contentious and one that's not, we can't vote to move them around?
Well, you could probably do anything you wish, but, to add people to an already busy night might be an issue.
Okay.
Further discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to set the public hearing for the Chase Bank amended site plan on Route 82 for May 19th, knowing that we'll also declare lead agency ahead of that meeting?
So moved.
Ahead of opening the public hearing.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And you can work with our folks to make sure you get
Yep.
all your circulations out and your advertising out.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Taconic Mobile Home Park amended site plan on Hosner Mountain Road.
I'm seized with this incredible sense of deja vu.
All over again.
No Poval presenting.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Porta Space, Inc., for the Moorgate Mobile Home Park. We typically, when the homes were upgraded, we would work through the building department on each individual home, as well as the ZBA, as far as the setbacks go. But what we're finding is, it just becomes a process every time. So what we're proposing to do is come before the planning board for basically a master plan to upgrade the homes. The majority of the homes in the park have already been upgraded, and these are the last, I believe, eight or nine of them, actually 8 of them, that are the old homes that are in need of repair or replacement.
Okay. Were
So-
any of the others set in a different location than their current site plan?
No.
Okay.
They were, we worked them in right, in those areas.
Okay.
I don't think it makes a huge difference, but the documents, we're talking about 9 homes.
Yeah, what we're proposing with this application is to replace 8 of them, and then we're also proposing to add an additional one. So that's why we're here tonight, to amend the site plan and do it all as one project.
So really, that's the only piece of this that's really in our purview, right? The replacement of the houses, is pretty much Mox Nix, right? I mean, that's not,
Well, I think they're upsizing a couple of them as part of this.
they're upsizing 2 of them, right?
Right, we're upsizing 2 of the single wides to double wides, and then we're repositioning some of the homes slightly to improve upon the setback. There's a number of homes right now that are in the setback requirements. So what we're doing is doing the best we can to pull as many out of the setback, and then because of the configurations of the home and the way the property line, for example, up in this corner, jets out into the property, it was a single wide that was kind of on an angle and extended closer to the property line. So in this particular case, we shortened up the home and went with the double wide home to get the space, because when you start getting into the single wides, you really need to get to that maximum length to get a desirable living space.
The last time I remember looking at this, we were talking about the water and
Yeah.
the well parcel that's right behind it that's linked to this, and I think is the water source for this. Is that completed? Has that been built out?
That has not been completed. Following the approval, the owner went out and sought bids to do the work, and the numbers came in astronomically high. So he's in the process, and I have to confirm this with him, but I believe he's in the process of, generating the funds to do that work. Because this is a small park, with any municipal, or I shouldn't say municipal, with any central water or sewer system, the cost per home, end up becoming very high. So the park right now is, they're trying to generate the funds to do those improvements.
So who replaces the homes? The owner?
The owner. And that's
So why can't he upgrade the water system before he goes and spends all this money to replace the homes?
because when you upgrade the homes, you can get higher rents and generate more money for the park.
But
You don't have
how much is it going to
fire flow.
cost to upgrade all these homes?
Wasn't part of the old was fire flow? Storage?
Yes, there was potable. They have an issue with the contact time for the chlorine, and then we wanted fire storage as part of that improvement.
Okay.
Does the upgrade of the homes result in there being more residents that can live there? Or is it still
Well,
the same amount of residents?
with this particular plan, we're adding an extra home, so that's an extra income, as well as, leasing the space for a new home, generates, more income.
And then there's the sale of the unit too, right?
Right.
So what's to say that he upgrades all of these homes and then still never upgrades the water system?
Well, further, he's not in compliance with his current site plan, correct?
Oh, that as well, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, the
I mean, I
prior
agree with you.
plan did involve the upgrade of the water system, and that eventually got approved by the health department in 2013. We've been in contact with the health department and received a recent letter from them that we attached with our letter, and we were asking about the schedule for the water system, and
Say they upgrade that before they
kind of recommending that all of this be done under the same timeline, but, we're willing to hear what his schedule is.
I mean, we have to know that it's going to get installed.
Okay.
We have to understand that.
Just for giggles and grins, what is prohibitively expensive?
Just the system alone, it's a
No, but I
bill.
mean, dollar-wise, I mean,
I don't have those
To
figures.
Jason's point, I mean, 9 mobile homes, 3 of them double wides, there's got to be a fair buck too, right?
Right, but those homes get sold to the person, who's buying one, who leases the space.
Who owned the old ones?
I'm sorry?
Who owned the old ones that were removed, or will be removed?
Well, what the park tries to do is if they go up for sale, they buy them, and then they can upgrade them.
So you had to buy out the old homeowner to do the upgrade.
Right, if the owner's willing to sell. I mean, there's a lot that goes on there, and that's why it takes a
I
long
was
period
just
of
wondering, 'cause I
time.
thought they were privately owned. So in other words, he would put up the new double wides or whatever, then he would resell them to
Right.
someone else and still rent the property.
Right. And the goal with this is to upscale the park and have everything new and
Do you
generate.
think to generate new tenants, wouldn't you want to have a nice brand-new water system in there?
Right now,
There's still nothing saying that he's going to finish the
Right.
water system.
And there was a recent review, and there was some things that needed to be done on the existing water system, but one of the things pointed out by the health department is there hasn't been any complaints about the water system to the health department.
But that doesn't mean anything.
How frequently is
So,
the
but
water
I'm saying
tested?
you're saying, so this way, right now, the water system has been operating adequate for the homes that are in there.
So it's just- can I just touch on some of the things in that same letter?
Thank you, Scott.
In no particular order. So without the improvement, the current supply does not have water storage capacity. It's strongly suggested that an emergency generator be installed and secured on site to run the well pumps and treatment plant in case of a power failure. So all our systems, public systems, have backup generators in addition to storage. So this system doesn't have storage and doesn't have a backup generator today. And I think that's a pretty important
And that's what was supposed to be in that new
improvement
building.
that should be done, because you can put more homes, nicer homes, but if you lose power and you don't have water, it's a problem.
I understand.
All right, now that's one. I guess the treatment plant has a vandalism problem. There is no fence or a gate to protect it. That's one item. The sampling point for the chlorine in all this time hasn't been, I guess, fixed, so they can't get an adequate sampling of the chlorine. And then they have a couple of deadlines. One was February 28th. Was that correct, at the February 28th deadline?
Yes, I spoke to them today, and they said that work has been completed, and they're working on completing the work that needs to be done by April 30th.
Okay. And some of that work around April 30th was like fuel cans and junk cars and junk mowers stored around the wells themselves.
Right.
So, I mean, I see a little like disregard for the water system here.
The only thing I just want to say, because you brought that up, is they did remove those cans, and they were fuel cans, but they used them for, other things, but they did remove those cans.
It's just, it seems like in light of the fact that they couldn't do the large improvement, there's a lot of items here that really should have never made a list, in operating a water system. So,
But Scott, this letter is comments on the existing,
yes.
Right.
and there's a plan that was approved for
Yes.
a replacement of the
Yes.
pump station and the
Yes.
storage, and to create storage.
Yes,
Did that also have a generator as part of the
Yep.
yes.
Yeah, and storage, yeah.
storage?
Oh, yeah,
With this-
it had every component that would be required in a new system today.
Is there a way to phase that, to at least make some improvement to the water system as you're doing some of these other things? So
Well,
that we
what
know
I'm
that
gonna
we
do
know
is
if
go
there's
back-
an end date where you get to the full system?
Right, and what I'm going to do is go back to the applicant and explain to him your concerns and try and get, more information from him specific to all these questions.
I mean, at minimum, I think an additional unit at this point, without the water system meeting the requirements of the current site plan, is a concern. I appreciate what you're doing with trying to pull back from setbacks and things like that, so I think, in theory, probably no issues, except you don't have the other improvements that you were expected to have on your site plan for your water system. So that's really the big stumbling block.
Right.
And I'm sorry, Scott, on the issue of the chlorine, Is there somebody who's routinely testing this water that's coming out of the taps and these people are drinking it?
Yes,
They have their own operator.
How frequently?
every day.
But there's an issue, I guess, according to the Board of Health with the contact time, and that was part of the reason for having the storage tanks, that the chlorine could mix with the water for
Yes.
an adequate amount of time before it went to the first testing system. So that needs to be addressed through the improvement.
Okay.
Who is testing this every day? Is it someone on site or?
I'm not 100% sure who they're using now to operate, but a New York State certified water operator goes out there on a daily basis. They submit reports monthly to the health department, which gets reviewed by the health department. And then the health department will come out yearly and do their inspections, which triggered the letter that Scott was just reading to you.
Seems like it's environmental consultants.
So why wouldn't,
They're copied
but
on
why wouldn't the person who's doing the testing have noticed that there's dangerous things near the well point? I mean, I don't understand.
It might be in those
Or
reports.
is this just somebody who's testing the water quality or?
I can't speak for them.
Okay. I think we need to understand more about it, Bill, and we need to understand what the plan is to get the water part of the water section of your site plan
Okay.
completed.
We understand that the water house, because we visited, it's way over on the one side, but it seems to me, I mean, the place is still not that big, you know? To Jason's point, you would see that.
So if you can get some of those answers for us and come back, just give us an update on where we are with the water, what his plans are
Okay.
to get us there and get himself in compliance with his site plan. Then
we'll
we go
entertain
into
this
the
stuff,
next, the next part of the
Well,
discussion.
would it be possible at this point to circulate for lead agency,
For what?
just to get that process going?
I want to understand what's going on with the water system before we're ready to do
No,
that.
I don't even
If-
wanna
if
look at
what
this
you're
before
coming
we're-
back with is, it's going to take us 5 years to get there, then, I'm not sure that we're able to do anything for you with regard to the current recommendation. We need to understand what's going on with the water.
Understood. I will, I'll go back to the applicant and get that information.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was the last item on our agenda. Does anybody have anything else for the meeting? Then do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? All right then. Happy St. Patrick's.